Hello, I want to welcome you to this week's edition of Child Rights Art Education Series. My name is Olakunle Soni, also known as Friend of the Child. The last time we looked at sections 11, 12, and 13. So today we're going to continue with section 14 of the Child Rights Act. Section 14 of the Child Rights Act says right to parental care, protection, and maintenance. Subsection 1 of this section reads, every child has a right to parental care and protection, and accordingly, no child shall be separated from his parent against the wish of the child, except for the purpose of education, for the purpose of his education and welfare, or in the exercise of a judicial determination in accordance with the provision of this act in the best interest of the child. Subsection 2 reads, every child has the right to maintenance to his parents or or uh, guidance in accordance with the extent of their means, and the child has the right in appropriate circumstances to enforce this right in the family court. So section 14 basically speaks to right of the child to parental care, protection, and maintenance. And it says that no child should be separated from the parent, except if it is only based on education, or maybe there is a judicial determination as regards the child separation from the family. That is, maybe the court has requested the child to be moved away from the family, or moved from the father to the mother, or from the parent to the family members. Except in that case, no one should move the child or should separate the child against the wish of the child. That's what the section 14 says. And section 15 says, reads, right of a child to free, compulsory, and universal primary education, etc. Subsection 1 reads, every child has the right to free, compulsory, and universal basic education, and it shall be the duty of the government in Nigeria to provide such education. That's subsection 1. Subsection 2 goes further to say, every parent or guardian shall ensure that his child or ward attends and completes his 1. Primary school education, school B. Junior secondary education. And subsection 3 goes further. Every parent, guardian, or person who has the care and custody of a child who has completed his basic education shall endeavor to send the child to a senior secondary school, except as provided for in subsection 4 of this section. And what does subsection 4 says? Where a child to whom subsection 3 of this section applies is not sent to senior secondary school, the child shall be encouraged to learn an appropriate trade, and the employer of the child shall provide the necessaries for learning the trade. And so, and subsection 5 says, a female child who becomes pregnant before completing her education shall be given the opportunity after delivery to continue with her education on the basis of individual ability. And subsection 6 reads, where a parent, guardian, or person who has the care and custody of a child fails in the duty imposed on him under subsection 2 of this section, commits an offense, and is liable on first conviction to be reprimanded and ordered to undertake community service, and on second conviction to a fine of 2,000 naira or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 month, or to both such as fine and imprisonment. And C, on any subsequent conviction to a fine not exceeding 5,000 naira or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 months, or to both such as such fine and imprisonment. And the last subsection of this section, which is subsection 7, reads, The provisions of this section shall not apply to children with mental health. This shall not apply to children with mental health. So Section 15 of the Child Right Act speaks to the right of children to free, compulsory, and universal primary education. And the way, and I mean, to break this down, I mean, to summarize this, is saying that every child should has the right to free, compulsory, that the government must provide free, compulsory, and universal basic education, and this, as this is the duty of government. And so, and the duty of parents is to ensure that the child attends and completes first the primary school education and also completes junior secondary school education. And it's also saying that where the parent who has the care, I mean, if a child, the parent of a child who has completed basic education, that the parent should ensure that the child goes further to senior secondary school, except also there are exceptions. And what is that exception? That in the case where maybe the parents cannot meet up the means to provide for the um the the child's senior secondary education, or maybe the child does as is seen to have not the wherewithal to have the capacity to cope with senior secondary education, or maybe the child has certain skills which need to be nurtured or developed in a different way outside the secondary school system, then the parents can engage the child in in a trade, and then the employer to ensure that the all the necessaries for that trade is provided to the child. And it's also this section also says that no female child should be denied the access or the opportunity to return back to her education after she must have delivered a baby. So any girl who got impregnated in the course of her studies should be given opportunity to complete her education, and this though may be on the basis of the child's individual ability. And then no, it's also this section also says that once a parent fails in his duty to do this, that on the first conviction, that if the first is first reported to the police station or maybe to the authority and the case is taken before the court, then on the first conviction the person should be made to go through community service. And when if the person does it again, then the person should be made to pay a fine of 2,000, can be made to pay a fine of 2,000, or in prison, or sent to prison for a term not more than 1 month, or maybe both prison imprisonment and fine can be placed on the person. While if the person could become commits the offense on the third time or fourth or fifth time, then the person should be made to pay a fine not exceeding 5,000 naira, and then or maybe should be made to go to be put convicted to a prison imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 months. And this period, or maybe this 5,000 naira fine or 2 months imprisonment, can depends on the judge or whoever is handling the matter, and depends on how the offense. So this both punishments can be served, can be given to the offender at the same time. And so, and the is now this section also said that yes, even though this section has said this, but these provisions are not does not apply to children with mental disabilities. That is, children who are mentally unstable do not necessarily have the right to enjoy basic. I mean, can may somehow be excused because of their maybe because of their mental states. They somehow be excused from the rigorous steps or rigorous activities of basic education, and that's what this law had said. And that's what this law had said. So section 16 says section 16 says or reads right of a child in need of special protection measure. And subsection 1 of this section says every child who is in need of special protection measures has a right to such measure of protection as is appropriate to his physical, social, economic, emotional, and mental needs, and under conditions which ensure his dignity, promote his self-reliance and active participation in the affairs of the community. Subsection 2 goes further to say every person, authority, body, or institution that has the care of the child or the responsibility for ensuring the care of a child is in need of special protection measures shall endeavor within the available resources to provide the child with such assistance and facilities which are necessary for his education, training, preparation for employment, rehabilitation, and recreational opportunities in a manner conducive to his achieving the fullest possible social integration and individual development and his cultural and moral development. So, this section 16 tries to look at children with special protection, children who need special protection, and it's saying that every child that has the who is in need of special protection measures should that the society, the parents, the adult, the organization, institution should ensure they provide this to this child that as and it should be tailored towards helping the child to develop physically, socially, economically, emotionally, and mentally, so that this child can be able to, so that this can be able to ensure that this child's dignity to ensure that the child's self-reliance is promoted, and also ensure that the child becomes actively participates in the affairs of the community. So, and then it goes further so that we must do all we can as adults, as institution, as authority, to ensure that this whatever we do for this child to whatever we do for this child to ensure to make sure that this education that will provide the necessary education, to provide the necessary training, to prepare the child very well, to rehabilitate the child, to provide recreational opportunities that can help the child to become fully integrated in society, to help the child develop fully, and also help the child's cultural and moral development. So that is basically what that section says. And section 17 is saying right as it the right of the unborn child to protection against harm and protection. Right of unborn child to protection against harm, etc. Section 1 says a child may bring an action for damages against a person for harm or injury caused to the child willfully, recklessly, negligently, or through neglect before, during, or after the birth of that child. So, where the father of an unborn child dies in intestate, the unborn child is entitled, if he was conceived during the lifetime of his father, to be considered in the disposition of the estate of the deceased father. And this, thirdly, subsection 3 says, where the mother of an unborn child dies intestate before the child is delivered, the unborn child is entitled, if he survives his mother, to be considered in the distribution of the estate of the deceased mother. So subsection 17 is trying to talk about the right of the unborn child, that a child can bring an action or damage that has been done to him, to his person, or maybe any harm or injury that's caused that's been being caused either deliberately or not deliberately, whether recklessly or through negligence or through carelessness, or even willingly, um, during his birth, a harm caused to him or injury caused to during his birth or after the birth of that child. And then saying that if the father of the child dies or the mother of the child dies in the before or during birth, the child should be considered in the disposition of the wealth or the properties of of the father or the mother. So basically, that's where we're going to stop for this week's edition of the Child Rights Art Education series. Thank you for following. I hope you do enjoy this, and do please always ensure you share with others so that we can all learn about the rights of children. Thank you.